They say a single decision can change your entire life. For Lena Hart, it was the moment she said 6 simple words to a stranger. Do you want to share a taxi? The Rome airport was chaos that day. Flights canceled, tempers rising, and the summer heat pressing down like a punishment. Lena stood near the window, clutching her camera bag, watching planes grounded on the runway. She'd been traveling for 3 days straight, shooting travel stories for a small magazine that barely paid her rent. All she wanted was a shower, a room, and one quiet evening before catching her morning train to Florence. But fate had other plans. The announcement crackled over the speakers. All flights to Florence have been canceled due to storm activity. Lena sighed, rubbing her temples. Great. Just perfect. Taxis outside were filling fast, every stranded passenger racing to book one. That's when she saw him sitting alone near the exit, suitcase by his side, his eyes hidden behind dark sunglasses despite the indoor lights. A tall man in a black tailored suit, hair slicked back, posture perfectly still. There was something about him, the calm in his stillness while everyone else was panicking. Their eyes met for half a second, cold, intense, like he was studying her and everything around her. The line for taxis was stretching endlessly. Lena hesitated, then walked over. Excuse me, she said, her voice polite but tired. You waiting for a taxi too? The man's head tilted slightly. His accent was deep, Italian, but his English precise. Yes. The hotel district? Same here, Lena said, forcing a smile. Want to share one? It might take forever otherwise. A pause, then a nod. Sure. Simple, cold. Final. They stepped out into the golden sunlight of the terminal driveway. The taxi smelled faintly of leather and cologne. Lena slid in first. The man followed his presence, filling the space like a quiet storm. The driver, an older man with sharp eyes, glanced up in the mirror. His hand froze for a moment on the gearshift. Recognition flickered, but he said nothing. As the car pulled out, silence thickened between them. Outside, the sun glared off the cobblestone streets. Lena adjusted her seatbelt, trying to ease the tension. So bad day to travel, huh? She said, half laughing. The man didn't answer right away. He stared out the window, fingers tapping slowly on his knee. Then, bad days come and go. His voice was calm, smooth, but something about it made her stomach tighten. It wasn't what he said, it was how he said it. Like he'd seen worse. Much worse. She glanced at him again. His jawline was tense, his watch expensive, and a faint scar curved just below his left ear. Trying to distract herself, Lena pulled out her camera, adjusting the lens to capture the passing street, the sunlight, the movement, the life. Click, a soft sound. But enough. The man's hand shot out, gripping her wrist gently but firmly. His voice dropped to a whisper. Delete that. Lena froze. What? He leaned closer, his eyes sharp. The photo. Delete it. The way he said it calm, but commanding, made her chest tighten. She nodded quickly, deleting the image from the screen. He leaned back, silent again, staring out the window. The driver looked tense now, knuckles white on the wheel. Everything all right back there? He asked cautiously. Yes, the man said softly, but his gaze in the mirror made it clear the driver shouldn't ask again. For a few miles, the only sound was the hum of the engine and Lena's nervous heartbeat. She kept glancing out the window, noticing reflections, a black SUV, a few cars behind them, slowing when they slowed, speeding when they did. Her voice trembled. That car behind us. It's been following for a while. The man didn't look back. He just straightened in his seat, his tone suddenly sharp. Don't turn around. Keep looking forward. The driver's eyes darted to the rearview mirror. Signore, should I drive? The man ordered. Now. The taxi sped through the next turn. The SUV followed. Lena's hands gripped her bag tightly. What's happening? He turned his head slightly, finally meeting her eyes, and for the first time, she saw something beneath the calm. Rage. Control. Danger. Nothing that concerns you, he said. As long as you stay quiet. But his hand slid inside his jacket pocket, not for a gun, but for a small, black phone. He sent a single message. Found me. Within seconds, the SUV slowed, turned off, and disappeared. The man exhaled quietly. It's over, he murmured. Lena didn't believe him, not for a second. 30 minutes later, the taxi pulled into a quiet street lined with elegant hotels. Lena's heart finally began to slow. This is me, she said quickly, eager to escape the tension. Thank you for the ride. She handed cash to the driver, opened the door, and stepped out into the warm daylight. The relief hit her like oxygen. But then she froze. The man stepped out too. Wait, what are you? He adjusted his cuffs, eyes scanning the street, and said in that same calm, unnerving tone, "It's safer if I stay here tonight as well." Lena blinked. Safer? For who? He looked at her, eyes cold but calculating. For you. Then he walked past her into the hotel lobby. She stood there, stunned, the summer sun suddenly feeling cold. Inside, the receptionist greeted him nervously. The moment he signed the register, the young man behind the desk went pale. His eyes darted toward Lena, whispering something to his coworker in Italian. Louis Moretti, Don Vincenzo Moretti. Lena caught the name Moretti and it sounded familiar. Too familiar. She'd seen it before. Somewhere on the news. She pulled out her phone, quickly typing the name. Her breath caught. Headline: Vincenzo Moretti, head of the Moretti crime family, wanted for racketeering and murder. The screen trembled in her hand. The man she shared a taxi with wasn't just a stranger. He was a mafia boss. As she looked up, he was already staring back at her across the lobby. No smile. No surprise. Just a quiet, dangerous understanding that she knew. And then he nodded once. A silent warning. Lena's throat went dry. She turned quickly, rushing to the elevator, heart hammering in her chest. Inside her room, Lena locked the door and collapsed on the bed. The city buzzed faintly outside, sunlight painting golden stripes across the floor. She tried to breathe, tried to believe this was just a nightmare. Then a knock. Soft. 2 taps. Then silence. Her body froze. She walked slowly to the door, hand trembling on the handle. But when she opened it, no one was there. Only a folded note on the floor. She picked it up. Her heart sank as she read the message written in precise, bold handwriting. Don't try to leave the hotel tonight. It's not safe. V. Moretti. She thought she'd escaped him at the terminal. But the truth was she had just stepped into his world. Morning came like a whisper. But to Lena, it didn't feel like morning at all. It felt like waking up inside someone else's nightmare. She hadn't slept, not really. Every sound, every creak in the hallway made her heart jump. The note from Vincenzo Moretti still sat on the table, folded neatly, mocking her. Don't try to leave the hotel tonight. It's not safe. She told herself she'd forget it, that she'd check out, get the first train out of Rome, and pretend this never happened. But as the daylight filled the room, something in her gut said it wasn't over. Lena walked down to the lobby, suitcase in hand, forcing herself to look calm. The hotel was quiet, too quiet. The receptionist from last night looked up as she approached. His smile faltered. Good morning, Signorina. Leaving so soon? Yes, she said quickly. Early train. He hesitated, eyes flicking towards something or someone behind her. She turned slightly and froze. There he was, Vincenzo Moretti, sitting at a corner table with an untouched espresso, reading a newspaper like it was just another ordinary day. A crisp white shirt, a black watch, the faint scar by his ear catching the light. For a moment, he looked almost peaceful, but the silence around him was unnatural. Even the staff avoided walking too close. Lena turned back to the receptionist. I'm checking out, she whispered. The man swallowed hard. I'm afraid your room is already extended for another night. Paid in full. She frowned. What? By who? He didn't answer. But she already knew. Her eyes drifted back to Vincenzo. He didn't look up, but she could feel it. He knew she was watching. Lena walked toward him, anger trembling under her fear. You paid for my room? She demanded softly. He folded the newspaper neatly, set it aside. Yes. You shouldn't travel today. Excuse me? There's a car waiting outside the hotel. It's not mine, he said calmly. They've been there since sunrise. Her throat tightened. What are you talking about? Someone thinks you're with me. He looked up, then eyes dark, unblinking. And that means you're in danger too. Lena's voice cracked. Because I shared a taxi? His gaze softened just slightly. Because you were seen with me. Silence hung heavy between them. She sat down slowly, trying to make sense of it. You're saying I can't leave because of you? Then, without looking at her, he said quietly, yes. Time passed in uneasy silence. Lena watched him, trying to read the man who looked like he could command a room with a single glance, yet sat now, quietly, as though weighed down by ghosts. Who are you? She asked finally. He smiled faintly, the kind of smile that doesn't reach the eyes. Someone who's been trying to leave a life that doesn't let go. Lena frowned. That's not an answer. He looked at her, then really looked at her. When you're born into power, you don't get to choose peace. You just learn to hide the war. She didn't know what to say. He reached into his pocket, pulled out a small black rosary, rolling it between his fingers. My father built an empire. My brother ran it. I just cleaned the mess they left behind. For a moment, his expression broke a flicker of pain behind the cold mask. Lena whispered, "You lost someone." He nodded once. "My brother, 2 months ago. Shot outside a chapel. They said it was business. I say it was betrayal." Lena's chest tightened. There was a quiet sorrow in his voice, the kind that doesn't fade, only hardens. The hotel felt like a cage. Every time Lena looked out the window, she saw the same black sedan parked on the street. No movement, just waiting. By afternoon, she found another note slipped under her door. "They think you're leverage. Stay inside." Her hands shook as she read it. This wasn't supposed to be her life. She was supposed to be taking pictures of Roman fountains, not hiding from killers. She went to the window again. A man was standing by the sedan now, smoking. He looked up, directly at her window. Lena stepped back quickly, closing the curtains. Her phone buzzed an unknown number. One message. "He can't protect you forever." Her heart pounded. She ran to the elevator, racing down to the lounge. Vincenzo was still there, sitting in the same chair, as if he hadn't moved all day. Lena slammed the note on the table. "Is this supposed to be a joke?" He looked at it, then at her. "Where did you get this?" "It was under my door." His jaw clenched. He stood, moving toward the window, scanning the street below. When he turned back, his voice was low, dangerous. "They're not joking." He grabbed his phone, dialing a number. His Italian words were sharp, urgent, a language of control and command. Lena watched, terrified, as he hung up and said simply, "Pack your things." "Why?" He met her eyes. "Because this hotel isn't safe anymore." They moved quickly through the corridors. Every shadow felt alive. Every sound made Lena's pulse race. As they reached the back exit, Vincenzo stopped suddenly, grabbing her wrist and pulling her against the wall. She gasped. "What are you?" He pointed to the mirror across the hall. A man in a gray suit stood by the main doors, pretending to read a paper. But his reflection revealed the gun holstered at his side. Lena's breath hitched. "Oh my God," Vincenzo whispered. "You walk out first, you die. Understand?" She nodded shackily. They slipped out through the service door, emerging into the alley behind the hotel. The sun was still shining bright, golden, but it felt unreal, like the day didn't know the danger it was hiding. A black motorcycle waited by the alley. Vincenzo handed her a helmet. "Put it on." I don't even." "Just do it." Before she could argue, he started the engine, the roar echoing off the narrow walls. They sped off into the sunlight, weaving through traffic, the city blurring into gold and shadow. Lena clung to him, heart pounding, mind spinning. Who was this man really? And what did he just drag her into? They stopped miles away at a quiet overlook above the city. Lena stepped off, dizzy, shaking. "Tell me the truth," she said. "What is happening?" Vincenzo took off his sunglasses. For the first time, she saw his eyes clearly, tired, haunted, human. "You were never supposed to be part of this," he said softly. "But the moment you got in that taxi, someone decided you were." Lena's voice trembled. "Someone?" He looked out over the city skyline, his jaw tightening. "My brother's killer." Thunder rumbles faintly in the distance, dark clouds forming over the bright city. And just like that, her day in Rome became a countdown. Because in Vincenzo Moretti's world, daylight didn't mean safety. It just meant they could see who they were running from. The storm hit the city that night, loud, merciless, and uninvited. But it wasn't just the rain that kept her awake. It was the silence between every thunderclap, and the feeling that someone, somewhere, was watching her. Lena sat on the edge of her bed, clutching her camera like a weapon. The chase had ended hours ago, but her heartbeat hadn't slowed. Outside, rain crashed against the balcony doors, and the city lights blurred into streaks of gold and blue. She couldn't shake the image of him, Marco Valenti, standing in the rain, facing the danger like he'd done it 1,000 times before. He had disappeared after helping her into the hotel lobby, leaving her with only 2 words. "Stay inside." She'd obeyed until now. A shadow flickered under her door. Her breath caught. Then knock. Knock. Slow, controlled. Too familiar. She approached the door cautiously, fingers trembling. "Who is it?" she whispered. Silence. Then a voice, low and calm, almost tender. "It's me." "Open the door, Lena." Her pulse spiked. That voice, deep, steady, with that quiet authority she'd come to both fear and trust. She unlatched the door slightly and froze. Marco stood there, drenched, his white shirt torn, blood tracing down his arm. His eyes, once calm and unreadable, now carried exhaustion and regret. He stepped inside without waiting for permission, closing the door softly behind him. For a long moment, neither of them spoke. Lena's voice broke first, trembling. "You're hurt? What happened?" He removed his coat, dark fabric soaked through, and sat heavily on the chair. "They found me," he said quietly. "My flight wasn't canceled by accident. Someone tipped them off. Someone close." He pressed a hand to his side, wincing. Lena rushed to her bag, grabbing a first aid kit she always carried for her travels. "You need a doctor." "No doctors," he said sharply, eyes flashing. "But they talk." She hesitated, but then knelt beside him, dabbing at the wound with trembling hands. He flinched, inhaling sharply through his teeth. Their faces were inches apart. Thunder boomed outside, and the lights flickered. For a second, just a second, he wasn't the Mafia Boss. He was a man bleeding quietly in the dark, letting a stranger tend to him. "You should have told me," Lena said softly, her voice shaking between anger and fear. "Told you what?" he asked, eyes fixed on her. "Who you are." He exhaled slowly, rain hammering against the window behind him. "And what would that change?" "Everything," she snapped. "I would have known what I was walking into. That sharing a taxi with you could get me killed." He looked away, his jaw tightening. Then he spoke, his voice low, each word soaked in weariness. "I didn't choose this life, Lena. I was born into it. The Valenti name. It's both a crown and a curse. I tried to leave once. Bought a vineyard in Sicily. Thought maybe I could grow something that didn't bleed." He gave a faint, bitter laugh. "Turns out the only thing that grew was enemies." Lena stared at him, torn between disbelief and pity. "So what now? You keep running until they find you again?" "No," he said. "This ends tonight." He stood, his shadow stretching tall across the room. "The man chasing us, his name is Armano. He was my second in command. He sold information to the police and to rival families. He thought killing me would make him untouchable." Lena's heart pounded. "So the crash earlier?" "Him. His men." He walked to the window, looking out at the storm. "They won't stop until I'm gone." Lena took a hesitant step closer. "Then let me help." He turned sharply, eyes blazing. "No, you stay out of this. You don't belong in my world." "Too late," she whispered. "I already am." The tension cracked sharp, fragile. He stared at her for a long moment, then sighed deeply. "You're stubborn." "So are you," she said, smiling faintly through the fear. For the first time, a ghost of a smile touched his lips. Lightning split the sky. Then power outage. The room went black. They froze. A soft click echoed in the hallway, a gun being cocked. Marco's instincts flared. He grabbed Lena's wrist and pulled her into the corner behind the curtain. Voices outside. Men speaking Italian low, threatening. "Check every room. He's bleeding. He won't get far." Lena's breath hitched. Marco pressed a finger to his lips, silent command. Footsteps approached their door. Doorknob turning. Lena's pulse roared in her ears. In the darkness, Marco leaned close, whispering into her ear, voice barely audible. "If they come in, don't scream. Stay low. When I say run, run to the stairwell." "What about you?" she whispered back. "I've been running all my life," he said softly. "Maybe it's time I stop." The door creaked open. Two silhouettes stepped in, flashlights sweeping the room. Marco moved like a shadow, silent, precise. One hit, two hits. Both men down before they could raise their guns. The sound of rain drowned everything else. He looked back at Lena, breathless, trembling, and nodded. "Now, we go." They ran, barefoot, heartbeats louder than the thunder. The emergency lights flickered red, casting long, haunting shadows across the corridor. Every door they passed sounded like it hid danger. Down the narrow staircase, one floor. 2 floors, gunfire erupted above them. Bullets hit the walls, sparks flying. Lena screamed as debris rained down. Marco pushed her ahead, his voice hoarse. "Don't stop. Keep your head down." They burst through a service door into the basement garage. The smell of gasoline, rubber, and rain filled the air. Marco scanned the rows of cars, bleeding again from his side. "Keys," he muttered. "Find keys." Lena spotted a maintenance truck door unlocked, keys dangling. She jumped in, hands shaking on the steering wheel. "I can drive." Marco climbed in beside her, pistol drawn, eyes scanning the mirrors. "And drive like you've never driven before." They sped out into the storm. Tires screeched against slick cobblestone. Rain blinded them. Thunder shook the sky, but Lena didn't slow down. She couldn't. "Where are we going?" she shouted over the storm. "To finish this," he said. "Armano's men will come until I make him stop breathing." She gripped the wheel tighter, tears mixing with rain. "And after that? You think they'll let you walk away?" He turned to her, eyes softening, voice low. "I don't care about walking away anymore. I just want this to end." For a moment, the world outside didn't exist, just the two of them. Two broken souls trapped between fate and freedom. But fate wasn't done yet. From behind headlights, three black SUVs, closing in fast. "Marco, I see them." "Hold steady." Gunshots shattered the rear window. Glass rained over them. He fired back through the broken glass, precise, controlled. But there were too many. He turned to her, urgent. "Left. Take the bridge." The truck swerved, nearly spinning out, tires screeching. The bridge loomed ahead, half under construction, lights flickering in the storm. They raced across, wind howling, sirens wailing far below. They reached the middle of the bridge when the engine sputtered. Marco cursed under his breath. Fuel gauge empty. The truck slowed. The SUVs behind them didn't. Lena's voice trembled. "What do we do now?" Marco chambered his last bullet. Eyes cold but calm. "Now I buy you time." "No, you can't." He cut her off, voice steady but kind. "You've got a life worth running for, Lena. Don't waste it because of me." He pressed something into her hand, a small silver locket. "When this is over, open it." She looked at him through tears. "Please don't do this." He smiled faintly, the kind of smile that carries both goodbye and gratitude. "I already did, the moment I let you in that taxi." He opened the door, stepping into the rain as headlights blinded them both. The camera slows, his silhouette against the storm, her tears against the window, the sound of gunfire echoing into the night. Sometimes, the truth doesn't set you free. It breaks you, so you can finally become someone new. Perfect. Here's your cinematic, emotional, and suspenseful final chapter. Chapter 5. The Last Ride, written like a professional YouTube storytelling narration with vivid imagery, emotional depth, and a powerful outro that keeps viewers hooked till the last second. They say every storm runs out of rain, but when the storm is inside you, some skies never clear. That morning, Rome woke to silence. But for Lena Carter, silence would never sound the same again. Visual: the bridge drenched in rain, smoke rising from burning vehicles, police cars flashing red and blue through the mist. Lena opened her eyes to chaos, flashing lights, broken glass, and the sound of shouting officers. The truck had spun out near the railing. Steam hissed from the engine. She stumbled out, knees trembling, calling his name. "Marco!" Her voice cracked, echoing into the gray sky. No answer, only the slow drip of rainwater falling from the bridge beams above. She ran forward, past shattered headlights and bullet casings, until she saw him. Marco Valenti lay near the edge of the bridge, rain washing the blood from his face. He was still breathing barely. She dropped beside him, tears mixing with the rain. "You're okay. You be okay. I'll get help." But his hand caught hers strong even now. "No hospitals," he murmured, faint but firm. "They'll finish what they started." Lena shook her head, sobbing. "Then what do I do?" "Tell me what to do, Marco." He smiled weakly, that same quiet smile she'd come to recognize. "You already did. You stayed." He pressed it into her palm. "If they ask who you were just a traveler. You never saw me." "No, I can't just walk away," she whispered. "You can," he said, eyes half-lidded. "You're the only one who still can." A deep exhale escaped him, fragile as smoke. Then the faintest trace of peace crossed his face. Lightning flashed. Sirens grew louder. Marco Valenti closed his eyes. Lena's scream was lost to the wind. She sat in a police van, wrapped in a blanket, staring blankly ahead. Reporters shouted questions outside the tape line. The words "Mafia Boss killed" and "bridge shootout" flashed across every news screen. But she wasn't hearing them. She was still in that taxi, still seeing his reflection in the rearview mirror, still hearing his voice. "You were the only peace I've known in years." A detective leaned toward her. "Miss Carter, are you sure you didn't know him?" Her eyes met his. For a moment, the truth trembled on her lips. Then she whispered, "No, he was just a stranger. We shared a taxi." Weeks later, sunlight pouring through tall glass windows, gentle music in the background. Lena's photography exhibition opened quietly in a small Roman gallery. Tourists wandered through, whispering about the haunting beauty of her work. Every photo raw, real, drenched in emotion. But one picture drew everyone's eyes. A photo taken by accident inside that taxi. A man half in shadow, sunlight touching his face. The title, The Stranger Beside Me. She stood before it alone, her reflection merging with his in the glass. Her fingers toyed with something around her neck, the small silver locket he'd given her. For weeks, she hadn't opened it. Until now. Click. Inside, folded neatly, was a small photo of a vineyard, peaceful hills under golden light. And on the back, written in faded ink, For when the world feels too loud, remember silence can be beautiful too. Tears blurred her vision as she smiled faintly, the first real smile in weeks. She whispered to herself, I'll remember, Marco. I promise. She learned that some people come into your life not to stay, but to show you how deep your heart can go, how courage can be found in strangers, and how even in chaos, there can be something worth remembering. She never told anyone the truth about that night, but every time she watched the sunrise, she felt him there somewhere beyond the noise, watching the world he never got to see free. Sometimes, the most dangerous roads lead to the most unforgettable people. She shared a taxi and found a story no one would ever believe.